you actually have the worst possible policies for the United States of America. Not 15 degrees off from where we should be, 180 degrees off, bad for us, making our economy weaker, making our healthcare worse, making our defense weaker, making our enemies stronger, making diseases more likely to take a high toll, destroying the environment, getting rid of the EPA, getting rid of the goals that we've got to protect the environment. Everywhere it's comprehensive. If a foreign enemy invaded the United States and said, we're going to destroy its institutions, we're going to destroy its competitiveness, we're down $11 billion in tourism. Nobody's coming to study in our schools anymore because we've scared the best brains who used to come here away. If we had come up with a plan to stop the U.S. from being a superpower, the plan would be the Trump administration.
Hello, and welcome to the PoliticsGirl podcast. I'm your host, Lee McGowan. Let's get into it. So when things are this crazy, when the news is a never-ending onslaught of shocking and unprecedented chaos, when everything you know about how things work seems to be up for debate, it's difficult to know what to do. Honestly, it's hard to even function properly with everything that's going on right now. So today I thought we would take a step back to get the thoughts of a man who is used to asking the big questions and considering the big picture, my friend David Rothkopf. For those who don't know David, he is the CEO of the Rothkopf Group, a best-selling author, a journalist, and host of the Deep State Radio podcast. He is also someone who truly understands government, having served as Deputy Undersecretary of Commerce and International Trade Policy in the Clinton administration, as well as working as a professor in international affairs at Columbia University, Georgetown, and Johns Hopkins. He is a contributing columnist to the Daily Beast, a member of the board of contributors to USA Today, and has authored hundreds of articles for multiple publications. So without further ado, please welcome best-selling author, international expert, and brilliant thinker not afraid to ask the hard questions, David Rothkopf. Welcome back, my friend.
It's good to be back. It's good to see you. Welcome to 2026.
The horror show that is 2026.
As bad as it may be for us, it is worse for Donald Trump. Every day this year has been a disaster for him, and it's only going to get worse.
Okay, let's just stop the episode right here, because that's great. That's all I wanted to hear. Nice to see you. Goodbye.
Yes, so long. World's shortest podcast.
Everyone goes off feeling good for the day. That would be great. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, you know I love talking to you, but I wanted to talk to you after I read your Valentine's Day post about the hard truths, because I've heard so many people say, listen, we're in the last days of democracy. We're at the beginning of the end. Like, everything I knew is false. And you did this hard truths post, and it was so good to me because not only did it acknowledge this kind of existential moment that we find ourselves in, but it wasn't nihilistic, which a lot of people feel the need to be right now. That, it addressed a number of the issues that I think have to be understood and dealt with immediately. But it was about, like, we don't have the luxury of looking away from what's happening right now. We have to kind of force ourselves to look at it and deal with it, because there are still so many of us here fighting for this idea of a land of freedom and opportunity that functions with democracy and a rule of law. And I thought that was so important right now, because I think so many people are just like, oh my God, kill me. But the first hard truth you put out there was that our government, the American government, is now the greatest enemy to the American people, and it's not even close. So will you talk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Although I think you know it in your bones. I wrote a piece in 2015 when I was the editor of Foreign Policy magazine, which said Donald Trump is the biggest threat to the United States in the world. So that was 11 years ago. So first things first, we knew this was coming. And, he was a big threat to the United States for a lot of reasons. He was incompetent to the office. No person who's ever been president has held zero prior public kind of jobs. He was loyal to our enemies. He was corrupt. Well, now what we've seen is we've seen him be president for 4 years. We've now got him back again. And this time around, they have been so aggressive in their attacks on our institutions and their attacks on our allies around the world, and there are attacks on our fundamental freedoms, that, it's starting to be more obvious to everybody, right? I see there is some hope in that. But right now, the average person, whoever is listening to your podcast, whoever is watching this streaming, is out there and they can say, well, gee, I have a neighbor who goes to the VA and they can't get service anymore. Or they can say, gee, I have a neighbor or a friend who got dragged away by ICE, or who is locked in their house because they're afraid of getting dragged away by ICE. Or they were watching on television as somebody's mom or an ICU nurse got shot. They're feeling the fact that, the president has imposed illegal tariffs worth like $140 billion, and we're paying the price. And he doesn't acknowledge that. He has blown up the Atlantic Alliance, and he has threatened to invade our enemies, and he has propped up Russia. And, Steve Witkoff, the boob who he has doing international negotiations while his son is out trying to do deals on the side of the negotiations last week, said, well, Putin has always been straight with me. And you're like, well, look, seriously, folks, if your chief negotiator is that gullible or feels so compelled to lie on behalf of Putin, you got a problem. So internationally, we've blown up the international trading system. We've blown up NATO. We've stopped being a force for democracy. We don't promote democracy anymore. Marco Rubio goes to the Munich Security Conference and says, Europe is in trouble. We know what the solution is. You have to protect your civilization. What is that code for? White Christian civilization. He is, with Stephen Miller as the quarterback, advancing a white supremacist agenda at home and abroad for the United States. So you take all that together and you go, holy shit, this is terrible. We are, as the meme goes, the baddies. I got a bunch of flack on social media yesterday for noting, as everybody was going, well, this is the first win for the U.S. Olympic hockey team since 1980. And, it's a gold medal for the U.S. Olympic hockey team. And it's just like that moment. And I was like, yeah, except at that time, the Soviets were the authoritarian state that was threatening all of our allies, run by a corrupt oligarchy. And we were the champions of democracy, and we were winning for our side. And now Canada was the state standing up for democracy, and we were the authoritarian oligarchy. So, things have changed. And if our eyes aren't open to that, we can't fix it. Now, as you indicated, and we can talk about it if you want, I think we can fix it. But it has to start with the fact that we are in the darkest days the Republic has ever seen with regard to the survival of our institutions. Civil War was bad. There were dark nights during the Cold War. But at no point during either of those periods did we think democracy was going to go away for everybody in America, or that our institutions would be taken over, and that we would have a leader who thinks he's a king.
Exactly. The thing is that like I watched that hockey game, and I was born in Canada, so obviously my preference is the Canadian team wins. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't the Miracle on Ice where America was the good guy and they were fighting back against the baddies. We are the baddies without a doubt. But I think it was brought home. I don't know if you saw the footage of Kash Patel partying with the U.S. Olympic hockey team, and he's raging like he won a gold medal. And like, I'm trying to picture Jim Comey there jumping up and down and screaming and shooting beer all over everybody. And then all these young boys screaming with him. And then they call the president, and they call the president on speakerphone in this room full of drunk young men. And he's like, fuck yeah, we got this. Fuck. It's like just F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. And the president's like, yeah, you guys are going to all have to come to the White House and see me. I guess we have to also invite the Olympic women's team as well. And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. And I thought, oh my God, this is like country run by the worst frat boys that ever existed in the world. And that's what it is. It's like misogynistic. It's like that women's game was the bomb, right? And the fact that our president demeaned the women's team, our head of the FBI was there wasted, partying with a gold medal around his neck like he had done absolutely anything. The fact that they called the president, everything about it was gross. It was everything that people who look at America and think, ugh, should feel.
I think we have to accept that Kash Patel is a ding-dong, right? I mean, he is just the human embodiment of loserdom in the worst possible ways. And the picture of him wearing the hockey jersey, downing a beer, behaving like he had won something while he was there on the taxpayer's dollar. And frankly, you know, he's legally liable personally to go off and do these kind of trips if it's vacay for him. Trump's response is even worse. Trump takes credit for everything. You know, the Mexican government attack, killed a cartel leader yesterday. And Trump immediately was like, well, see, this is part of the pressure. He takes credit for everything. This morning, and I say this with real sensitivity to you as a Canadian, he posted an AI video of himself in a hockey uniform skating down the ice and then punching a Canadian player. I mean, that's where our president is. To lighten this up a little bit, because we need to sort of help ourselves get through this, I do think it's important that we realize how ridiculous these people are. They're terribly dangerous. But Kash Patel's as big a jerk who has ever been in the government. But then there's Pete Hegseth. But then you stop thinking about Pete Hegseth, and then there's Kristi Noem, who needs her blankie on the airplane, and she gets her boyfriend who works for her to go and fire a Coast Guard captain. And then, and I really would like to hear your reaction to this, we get RFK Jr. in the sauna with Kid Rock.
With Kid Rock?
With their shirts off, working out together.
Drinking milk in the hot tub? Like, what planet are we on?
Which is, blazing new trails in geriatric homoerotic filmmaking. This is where we are as a country, right? And then Melania and her movie. And it's like, it's the worst. And it makes Idiocracy look like a documentary. And somehow we have to manage our way through all this.
Yeah. And somehow we're still in year 2. Yeah. No, I mean, you said they have debased our government with corruption and incompetence. And they have crossed the line from being political adversaries to being enemies within our borders. It is vital that they are defeated as soon as possible. And I feel the same way, because as ridiculous as it is, and I do think you're right, we should call it ridiculous because it is ridiculous.
And also because they hate being laughed at.
No, they think they're the bomb.
Laughing at them is actually a superpower we can all share.
Like you said, they're ridiculous, but they are also incredibly dangerous, that we have to recognize this moment we're in, because there is no good or acceptable plan B to these people. Like, we can't allow this to continue. Tell me what you mean by that, because if we allow this to continue, America doesn't come back from this.
No, well, because what they're doing is dismantling our institutions one by one. I could start almost anywhere, because they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education. And Stephen Miller is saying they now want to teach in the schools courses that are only patriotic and make people feel good about Americans and don't have communist propaganda in them, as if we did. And I've talked about, getting rid of NATO and, blowing up the international trading system. You think anybody's ever going to trust the U.S.?
We let the nuclear arms deal lapse.
We had one remaining strategic nuclear arms deal, and we let it lapse. And they were planning for that. On March 1st, they start building new nuclear weapons. They're expanding the number of nuclear warheads that are fireable from our submarines. They are triggering a global nuclear arms race. And, we can look at all of these things as a snapshot. This happened today, and that's wrong. We have to look into the future and say, will anybody trust us again? Will we ever have an alliance again? Is the world getting more dangerous? And take the tariff battle, right? The Supreme Court comes in, reins in Trump. The next moment, Trump is attacking them in the worst ad hominem attack I've ever heard a president go after anybody in any co-equal branch of government. And that is destroying a norm. And I think we need to know that. But then Trump says, well, we're going to still do the tariffs. We're going to do it this way. He chooses a path, Section 122. I used to be acting Undersecretary of Commerce for International Trade, so I'm a trade geek, right? But he chooses a path that the government lawyers, when they were trying this case originally, said would not work, would be an inappropriate choice for this. He chooses that. He puts out a tweet this morning saying, if you listen to the Supreme Court decision as a foreign government and you think it changes anything, we will punish you. That is a brewing constitutional crisis. And if Supreme Court decisions stop mattering to this president, imagine where that takes us. And of course, the Supreme Court's responsible for some of the other pernicious developments in our life, like the president's sense that he has impunity on all things. We can just go down the list. RFK Jr. is waging a war on science. A generation of people who are going, well, this is a political issue and vaccines are really political and I shouldn't give my kids vaccines because that's, woke. Everywhere you look, you don't just have policies that are different from the policies the Democrats would take. You actually have the worst possible policies for the United States of America. Not 15 degrees off from where we should be, 180 degrees off, bad for us, making our economy weaker, making our healthcare worse, making our defense weaker, making our enemies stronger, making diseases more likely to take a high toll, destroying the environment, getting rid of the EPA, getting rid of the goals that we've got to protect the environment. Everywhere it's comprehensive. If a foreign enemy invaded the United States and said, we're going to destroy its institutions, we're going to destroy its competitiveness, we're down $11 billion in tourism. Nobody's coming to study in our schools anymore because we've scared the best brains who used to come here away. If we had come up with a plan to stop the U.S. from being a superpower, the plan would be the Trump administration.
Yeah, we wouldn't need any foreign investment. Heather Cox Richardson said, to paraphrase her, it's a trip to watch a world superpower commit suicide like this. It is the craziest thing. I mean, I ran into a woman in the San Francisco airport who knew the work that I did. So we were having a conversation and she's like, we have to move to Finland. And I said, why are you moving to Finland? And she said, my husband is a science researcher and he was about to cure liver cancer and they cut all of his funding. So the Finnish government came in and said, please come and cure liver cancer from here. So they're going over for 7 years so that they can cure liver cancer because we cut the funding. And I thought, what in the hell are we doing that this is where we're at?
The Japanese government has a program like that. Other European governments have programs like that. The Chinese government has programs like that. And again, if you don't think this has long-term consequences, China has already leapt ahead of us on AI, on quantum computing. They are ahead of us in a lot of areas technologically.
Green energy, they just took over because
they've been gaining ground on green energy for the past 15 years. The reality is we had some advantages, better research universities. We attracted people that would come here, they would stay here. No more. And if you imagine for a moment that you're a student and you're saying, where should I go study? Where do I want to make my career? And 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you would have said, I'm going to the US. Best schools, I'm going to go to Stanford or Caltech or Harvard or MIT or the best school I can go to, and I'm going to go and build my career here. Now, you would say, I'm not going to the United States. They may not let me in. If I have the wrong social media post, they're going to throw me in jail and they're not going to fund my research. And then say a Democrat gets elected in 2028, a woke, smart, capable Democrat, and reverses all these policies. You're going to college for a 4-year term, and then you're going to go to graduate school. Do you trust the U.S. isn't going to go back to MAGA? Of course you don't.
No.
It is pernicious because it destroys our future as well as this current moment.
Correct, which is, I think, why you said in that article that it's essential that we set our priorities clearly right now, that we don't let any single issue stop us in uniting in the singular goal to defeat Trump and the MAGA movement in 26 and 28, that everything else is impossible if we don't make that our first priority. And I think that doesn't mean we can't work on other things. We can't have long-term planning. We need long-term planning. But what we need to do immediately is get back in power, because if we don't get back in power and we don't have a plan as soon as we are back in power, we diddle around for a year trying to figure out what we're trying to do. The damage that Trump and his enablers and his co-conspirators have done to our country, to our institutions, to the world order are so astronomical, as you're saying, that we can't waste a single moment turning it around. With everything that's going on in the news, I really don't feel like cooking. Or as my husband says, with everything not going on in the news, I don't feel like cooking. The bottom line is I don't feel like cooking, which is why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor. If you love great food, but you hate cooking or cleaning, this just might make your meals 10 times easier. Tovala is a smart meal delivery service, fresh meals and a smart oven that does the cooking for you. Tovala makes it so easy. You just scan the meal's QR code, pop it in the oven, and it cooks everything perfectly. It will steam or bake or broil automatically. No guesswork needed, no cleanup necessary. Tovala's meals are chef-crafted and taste like homemade. They are made with real fresh ingredients, or you can even use their oven to scan store-bought groceries like Eggo waffles or Pillsbury cinnamon rolls or Amy's frozen meals. It knows how to cook those too. We're talking meals like petite filet mignon with buttered green beans, toasted almonds, and truffle hollandaise, or chicken parmesan with cheesy stuffed shells and marinara. The whole thing just goes in and it cooks itself. It's a little like being a Jetson, like cooking in the future, except it's now. I can't even imagine what I would have done with this when I was single and living by myself. I literally might send the entire unit with my son to university. I have girl dinner all the time. It's toast or standing in the freezer eating ice cream. This is so much better. As an adult, I can't imagine saving 45 minutes to 2 hours a night not cooking. That sounds incredible. Tovala allows you to eat better without putting in a ton of effort. There are high protein options, calorie smart options, gluten-free options, comfort food, whatever you're into. Do you ever wish that dinner would just magically cook itself? Well, with Tovala, that's a real possibility. For a limited time, because you are a PoliticsGirl listener, you can get a Tovala Smart Oven for just $49 plus free shipping when you order meals 6 or more times. Just go to tovala.com/politicsgirl and use my code PoliticsGirl. That's a $49 Tovala Smart Oven when you head to tovala.com/politicsgirl and use the promo code PoliticsGirl. One last time, that's tovala.com, and make sure you use my promo code PoliticsGirl. Remember, with Tovala, dinner is taken care of. Okay, so I've found you have to be really careful trying to fix the lines around your mouth, because most people who try to handle the problem with fillers end up looking worse, which is so disappointing because you know they only wanted to look better, which is why I was so psyched when I found the OS1 lip mask. I am genuinely impressed with this product, and I'm not alone. 78% saw improved fullness in their lips after 4 weeks. 81% of people saw decreased fine lines around their mouth, and 94% agreed their lips stayed hydrated for longer after 12 weeks. For me, I really noticed the difference with those fine lines around my lips. As I've gotten older, it's one of the things I am most self-conscious about. I hate it, and I think it makes me look 1,000 years old and like I smoked for my entire life, which I did not. Now OS1 is known for their cult favorites like OS1 Body, OS1 Face, OS1 Eye, but I can honestly tell you I am obsessed with OS1 Lip. Just so you know, every formula of OS1 is certified safe for sensitive skin, dermatologist tested, free from over 1,500 irritating ingredients, and awarded the National Eczema's Association Seal of Acceptance, so you know you're going to get powerful results without irritation or harsh side effects. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause those visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with 15% off when you use the code PoliticsGirl at oneskin.co/politicsgirl. That's 15% off with the code PoliticsGirl. And after you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. I literally just ordered 2 more lip masks, one for me and one as a gift, but honestly, I might keep them both. That's oneskin.co/politicsgirl. We can't waste a single moment turning it around.
I think that's absolutely right. But, it has some implications that some Democrats, some people who are in the opposition have trouble dealing with. And I think we need to understand what those implications are. One is, this job was our job when Joe Biden was president too, and he didn't realize it. And Merrick Garland didn't realize it. They said things will take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They won't take care of themselves. We now know that. And I'm sorry, there are a lot of people out there, probably followers of yours, who are like, oh, don't say anything bad about Joe. Look, Joe Biden's a good guy, just trying to do some good stuff. But he dropped the ball on the single most important issue that there was, which was not letting this enemy from within take over. And we knew they were the enemy within on January 6th, 2021, 15 days before Joe Biden becomes the president of the United States. They ran a coup against the US. Okay? So we knew it. And for 4 years, we didn't treat it that way. And whether it was from electoral strategy or legal strategy or whatever. So that's number one. The second thing is that tells you that there are some people on the Democratic team who don't understand that we need to win. And now there are people who say, well, look, if we've got to win, we can't fight among ourselves. And my response to that is, that's not true. We can have primaries. We can choose the right people. It's time to say that the old leadership is not up to this. Chuck Schumer is not up to the moment, folks. Does that mean, if primaries don't go the way that you want them to go, and there's a Democratic candidate who is, too centrist for your taste or too weak on Trump for your taste, that you shouldn't vote for him? No, of course not. You should vote for him. But no more John Fettermans, folks. No more John Fettermans. And I think that,
or Joe Manchin,
or Joe Manchin, or we can come up with a long list of these people who we can do without. So winning is our first goal, but winning the right way so we can make the changes. Because the day after you win, we need structural change. And that was another point that I tried to make in this piece. There's a million things you want to do. Well, AID was great, and 14 million people are going to die because we got rid of AID. Do I think those funds should be restored? I do.
What David's talking about, in case you don't know, is USAID, which Doge came in and basically closed, and then they got rid of it. And we know that at least 600,000 people have died because we stopped using our soft power to send food to places in the world, so that when food arrived, it would say USAID on it. And you would say, I like the Americans. They feed us. They help us. We just cut the entire program.
And of the 600,000 who died last year, because we closed this program, 400,000 were children. Okay. And the Lancet, the respected journal, has projected that through 2030, 14 million people will die. We need to fix those programs. But
maybe don't rebuild it the way it was.
Oh, no, you can't rebuild it. Just get the money back, give it to the State Department, have them administer it. It's always been the better way to do it. But there are other priorities that we need to address. We need to expand the Supreme Court of the United States. We need to change the rules. We need to work to have DC and Puerto Rico, if they want to, gain statehood. Maybe California should be 2 states. But the point is, all these pieces fit together. And you can't do, Joe Biden, sorry, lovely Joe, great guy, Jill was lovely. But Joe Biden held a commission to look at restructuring the Supreme Court. He had brilliant people on it. They said, here are the ways we can do it. And he said, yeah, okay, I don't really want to do that. And it's a problem. And by the way, for those of you who think it's a crazy idea, there used to be a direct correlation between the number of judicial circuits that there were and the number of justices. There are 13 judicial circuits in the US. There should be 13 justices. Okay, that's just the way it ought to work. But if we don't recognize that these structural changes are important, we're not going to get to where we're going to go. And here's another one that the last administration, Democratic administration, had completely wrong, holding Republicans to account.
Yep.
If Donald Trump, the people around Donald Trump, do not be held, brought to court for violating the law, you know that they will do it again. And look at January 6th. We have it. It's not abstract. They tried to run a coup. They got away with it. They got reelected. They pardoned everybody. They put them in the government. And then they're starting to recast the whole thing and rewrite history as though those were the heroic people who were attacking police on Capitol Hill and threatening the Congress as it has never been done in our history. I live in D.C. the big growth industry in DC is Project 2029. Every group in DC has a Project 29. There's a Project 2029 for energy. There's a Project 2029 for national security. I'm involved in some of this. There's a Project 2029 for, I don't know, transportation, tourism policy. Why? Well, we got to change with a new government. Okay, that's fine. Most of them are, between us, being done so that the people in the committees can get a job in the next government, right? It has nothing to do with this. What we really need is a Project 2029 on massive structural reform in the United States. And we need a Project 2029 of some of the best legal minds who are also kind of pissed off on accountability. We need to know on day one, Stephen Miller's getting a knock on his door, and they're going to come, and the warrant's going to be specific, and the case is going to be specific. And, you say, well, when they go low, we go high. Okay, please just wash that bullshit out of your mind, okay? Today, as we're recording this may be released a day or two later, but today, the hackiest of all judicial hacks in the United States, Judge Eileen Cannon, ruled that the US government can never release the case against Donald Trump for stealing national secrets because it would be damaging to Trump and his co-defendants. And what may be an unappealable ruling. So look, that's how they play this game, okay? They're playing for keeps. That should give you a clear sense of what the risk is, but it also should send a message to us. Not that we violate the law like them, but we protect the law with the ferocity that they attack the law.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all done. Most of us out here are done, which is why we're so exhausted with Democratic leadership that we see in Washington, because we're all like, are we just going to let this go by? Are we just going to let people get shot in the street? Are we just going to lose our health care and get measles again and destroy all of our world orders? I think one of the biggest priorities after winning, obviously, and delivering actual results for the American people so we shore up our pro-democracy faction of the government is accountability for what's happening now. I mean, we need a plan in place to address the abuses and the corruption and the crimes that have happened under the Trump leadership, to hold the president accountable, to hold his co-conspirators, his collaborators, people like Eileen Cannon accountable, to hold Kash Patel accountable, to hold Kristi Noem accountable, because it got this far because of all of those people. I keep thinking about the quote that came out of Washington last week that was like, look, if we held everyone in the Epstein files accountable, there would be like 3 Republicans in federal power. And I was like, yeah, okay, that would be fine, because what are we doing?
It's exactly right. And when you talk about holding people accountable, and when you talk about problems that we have in the United States, recognize that those problems extend beyond the Trump administration to the power structure of the United States and to the political or legal impunity that the members of what John Ossoff correctly referred to as the Epstein class in the United States feel that they've got. And this is a message to all those Democrats, including your soon-to-be former governor, which is, you kissing up to the billionaires is not the answer. Part of the problem is that there is a billionaire class in the US that doesn't think the rules apply to them. And now we see, of course, we have 13 billionaires in the administration. The president has become a billionaire several times over again, being president. He's got stolen $5 billion. Witkoff and his kids are stealing money. Lutnick and his kids are stealing money. There's this unbridled corruption. But you think, Palantir cutting deals behind the scenes. Peter Thiel becomes a supporter of Trump, and they go and they cut all these deals which are invisible to the world because they're on black budgets, is not corruption. Or Jeff Bezos paying $40 million to Melania Trump for a movie nobody wants to see is not a bribe. That's a bribe. Okay. And we have to stand up to those people too. Does that mean oh, we're going to scare the billionaires out of the Democratic Party. Come on. That's ridiculous. That's like saying Mamdani's going to win and the rich people are going to leave New York. Guess what? It didn't happen. Okay? It's because the rich people realize that if they have to pay a 1 or 2% tax for being rich, they're still rich. You know, if you got billions of dollars, a 1 or 2% tax, it's still nothing. They get
it's
it.
Trump change to you. Yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous.
They know it's not fair. And by the way, there are a bunch of other billionaires who are out there who are doing the right thing, you know, who are trying to make the world a better place. You know, Tom Steyer is politically active in California. I'm not saying people should vote for him or not. There's a guy named Nick Hanauer who's running this big effort across the country to get the minimum wage up, to make sure that there's housing for everybody, to make sure that people have health care and they have a job. You know, so there are a lot of, you know, people who are actually trying to do the right thing out there. But kissing the ass of a bunch of oligarchs who are playing into Trump's hands and who have bought our government and are perfectly willing to Elon Musk us to death. You know,
I think they're very happy if we all die. Honestly, like, I think we're in the way. We're in the way.
That Elon Musk is personally responsible for pulling the plug on USAID. Let's, you know, stipulate Marco Rubio went along with it, which he shouldn't have done. You know, he's not the grown-up in the room. But Elon Musk pulled the plug on it, and now we know that 14 million people are going to die. Their lives are going to end because Elon Musk didn't understand what the fuck he was doing, or he didn't care, or both.
Okay, so you know how everyone is using red light therapy now, that it's supposed to make you look younger by making your skin look brighter and smoother? Well, iRestore, which we have had their hair system for a while, has come out with an Illumina face mask bundle. We've had the iRestore Elite, which is the most advanced laser hair growth system that uses 300 lasers and 200 LEDs to help regrow thicker, healthier hair for months. You can wear it while you're working, while you're reading, or as Sean and I do, unwinding at night. This is not something that I personally need, but Sean is using it. Now, iRestore has the Illumina face mask. This is a lightweight, cordless mask that has 2 times more LEDs than other top masks, and it targets fine lines and breakouts and dullness with triple wavelength light therapy. You just have to use it 10 minutes a few times a week. I am totally starting this week. I don't have the time or the money to go for facials, and I can't do things like an upper bluff or a mini facelift, even if I wanted to, because I can't do elective surgery because of my illness. So I need these skincare treatments to work. And iRestore is so confident in their technology that they offer a 12-month money-back guarantee. So if you don't see healthier looking skin or fuller looking hair if you use their hair treatment, you'll get a full refund. The iRestore Illumina mask is a dermatologist recommended LED mask that uses 3 wavelengths to target your skin concerns: red and infrared to support anti-aging, stimulating collagen, improving hyperpigmentation, boosting blood flow, and blue light to help reduce blemishes, clear acne, prevent breakouts, and shrink pores. And it's one of the first masks on the market that allows you to use all 3 of those modes simultaneously. And right now, iRestore is kicking off their spring savings with some big discounts. You can get the Elite Plus and the Illumina face mask bundle at an exclusive deal when you use the code PoliticsGirl at iRestore.com. That's PoliticsGirl at iRestore.com. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Give your hair and your skin the upgrade they deserve so you can feel confident and refreshed. iRestore.com, code PoliticsGirl. Now, I'm one of those people that needs to sleep in complete darkness. And for a long time, my blinds allowed way too much light in at the crack of dawn. We also have a neighbor who has a motion-censored floodlight that goes off and on all night, and that would wake me up. So if you're like me, you might need new blinds, but maybe you don't even know how to buy blinds. Maybe the thought of measuring and choosing blinds is overwhelming to you, which is why I am happy to tell you there is a better way to buy blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery, and it's called 3-Day Blinds. 3-Day Blinds are the leading manufacturer of high-quality custom window treatments in the United States. We can shop for almost anything at home, so why not blinds? 3-Day Blinds has local, professionally trained consultants with an average of 10+ years experience that will help provide guidance on the right blinds for you in the comfort of your own home. You just set up an appointment and you will get a free, no-obligation quote the same day. But what if you ordered blinds and you're not sure how to put them up? Some people find DIY projects fun, other people find it overwhelming. The expert team at 3 Day Blinds can handle all of that. They design, they measure, they install, so you can just sit back and relax and leave it to the pros. 3 Day Blinds gives you thousands of options that fit any budget or style, from light filtering to blackout shades to motorized to smart blinds that work with your Alexa. This is an upgrade to your home, not just a replacement of something old. 45 years in the business have allowed 3 Day Blinds to help more than 2 million people get the window treatments that they want, so you know this is a brand you can trust. Right now, get quality window treatments that fit your budget with 3 Day Blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/politicsgirl for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/politicsgirl. One last time, that's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to the number 3, dayblinds.com/politicsgirl. The Politics Girl podcast has a new sponsor, First Day, a daily multivitamin for kids, teens, and adults. Research shows that most parents don't know that 50% of kids suffer from what's called hidden hunger. Hidden hunger comes from picky eating, processed snacks, even a lack of nutrient-rich soil that your fruits and veggies grow in. So if you have someone in your family who only wants to eat chicken nuggets or refuses to eat anything that's green, and you see they are having some trouble concentrating or staying calm, it might be that they're just not getting enough nutrients. This is where First Day daily multivitamins come in. Vitamins aren't one size fits all. Our nutritional needs change as we grow, which is why First Day has age-specific daily multivitamins that hold the Clean Label Purity Award. They have been tested for 200 plus toxins. They have more vitamin B than 5 cups of broccoli, more folate than 1.5 cups of spinach, a superfood blend of 12 organic fruits and vegetables, 9 essential vitamins for the brain and mood, which is why with 2 gummies a day, you can boost your child's nutrition, their mood, their sleep, their health. There's no fake dyes, no added sugar, no artificial ingredients. And 83% of parents say their first day improved their child's overall behavior. Plus, like a lot of products that I talk about, First Day also has a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you know you can try it with confidence and return it if it's not working for you. Clinically absorbable, family safe, actually effective. For a limited time, our listeners are getting an insane deal. Use the code PoliticsGirl to get up to 57% off at firstday.com. That's up to 57% off and a free gift with the code PoliticsGirl at firstday.com. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Firstday.com, code PoliticsGirl.
Their lives are going to end because Elon Musk didn't understand what the fuck he was doing, or he didn't care, or both.
And I think you pointed out beautifully that the next transition in Washington will not be a normal transition, that it's going to be a huge effort to destroy records and cover their tracks, that people are doing that now. And the message we need to send both to our country and the world is that accountability is not some afterthought. We're not going to have some Ford pardoning Nixon good faith move, or let's move on, or for the good of the country, let's come together. We have to have massive consequences. We have to have our own version of Nuremberg trials, you know?
Even I would go a step further in support of what you're saying and say, let's look at the Trump second term for what it is, which was an effort to avoid accountability. That is why Eileen Cannon is doing what she's doing. That is why they are pursuing all of these policies, whitewashing, destroying records. If you don't think that the Department of Justice has destroyed Epstein files that are embarrassing to the President of the United States, you're kidding yourself. Because we are in the midst of the biggest obstruction of justice project, certainly in American history, possibly in the history of the world.
And I think it's important that you're saying, like, it might sound annoying to Democrats to say that, you know, President Biden and his team failed by not realizing their primary job was to keep Trump from returning to office. But we need Democrats now that realize the nature of this moment, what our priorities have to be, who we need to call out, who we need to get in there to win. And it doesn't hurt the Democratic Party to call out the leaders that are unable to meet the moment for being too soft or too stuck in their ways or incapable of challenging what's right in front of them. Because of course, yes, we need candidates that will win, but we also need candidates that once they win will do whatever it takes to fix what's broken.
I got on television and said, oh, Hillary Clinton's definitely going to win. And I got on television and said, Kamala Harris is definitely going to win. And I was wrong twice, which by the way, my wife brought up to me this morning, which I thought was unnecessary. But, but we don't know what's going to, I've read countless number of articles saying Zoran Mamdani is going to lose, but he's what the voters of New York wanted. And they said, well, he calls himself a socialist. Well, there's mayor of Seattle who calls herself socialist now. There's something else happening here, which I think we got to open our eyes to, right? And that is that in 2028, the majority of people eligible to vote for the first time in history will be millennial and Gen Z. The majority of voters will be born since 1990. The majority of voters, they don't remember the Cold War. They don't remember 9/11. They were little kids. They don't remember 9/11. For most of their adult lives, the most prominent figure in the U.S. has been Donald Trump. Inequality has been spiraling out of control. COVID came from out of the blue and said they are not safe. They are not protected. They don't believe they can afford a home. They don't believe the U.S. system is working for them. That's the majority of voters. And I think we need to open up our eyes. Those are the people who are going to decide.
My son turned 18 last week, and the very first thing he wanted to do was register to vote. Like, this is the new generation, and there's a reason New York went from Eric Adams to Zoran Mamdani, and it wasn't because of the Democratic Party. It was in spite of the Democratic Party. Whether the party was ready or not, the people were voting for something different, and they chose a different path, and the powers that be would be smart to get on board and start acknowledging that.
And that's absolutely right. And the billionaires and the Wall Street guys and so forth, they said, oh my God, you can't elect a guy like Mamdani because, we'll all leave town and we don't like it and so forth. And they didn't realize that when they said that, it created his majority. It was
people were like, bye, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
This may be controversial for a lot of people to hear. I'm a Jewish guy from New Jersey. His father was a Holocaust survivor. I have two Jewish daughters who both live in Brooklyn, who were married to Jewish guys. There were a bunch of people who said, well, Mamdani is being tough on Israel, and Mamdani wants justice for the Palestinians. And they were like, we can't have somebody like that running the city with the largest Jewish population in the United States, and by some measures, the largest single Jewish community in the world. And you want to know something? He got elected because those were his views, not in spite of it. Because if you're a millennial or you're a Zoomer, the only leader of Israel that you know is Benjamin Netanyahu, is a war criminal. The government has been terrible. You don't understand why there is reflexive support for this country. And this is Jewish people in New York City. So a lot is changing. And I just saw a story the other day that said the Democratic analysis of why Kamala Harris lost, by the way, more narrowly than we acknowledge, but why she lost. One of the things said was that she did not distance herself from Biden's Gaza policy, and that lost tens, hundreds of thousands of votes. And so, for a bunch of people who are like, well, okay, well, we're going to do this the way we've done it. No, we're not. We're not on accountability. We're not going to do it the way we've done it on pandering, with sort of neoliberal policies to Wall Street. We're not going to do it the way we've done it by making corporate priorities our top priorities rather than people priorities. We're not going to do it on Israel. We're not going to do it on, et cetera, et cetera. All this has got to change, because the electorate has changed. And so if you want to win, the way you win is not by going on the Joe Rogan show and attracting, MAGA evangelicals who don't care that Donald Trump is corrupt. They're not coming over. The way you win is by getting your son to register to vote and show up. And you get young voters to show up because they don't want this anymore. And they are naturally going to drive this forward.
Yeah. I always remind people that more people didn't vote than voted for either candidate in the last presidential election. That I don't think we should spend our time trying to turn Trump voters who are still on board with him at this point. We should be dealing with people that didn't vote and people who are new voters and show them a different kind of America that's worth voting for, not just more of the same. Now, before you go, the State of the Union is today when this drops. And the president is supposed to outline how the country is doing to Congress and what they expect to focus on next. And I know there's a number of Democrats who are choosing not to go. What do you think we should expect Trump to say when the State of the Union is clearly worse than ever? And what do you think he's going to tell the people and what we should be looking for in this speech that happens today?
Well, I know, and you know, and everybody listening knows, because he's just going to lie. It's going to be lie-a-palooza.
Best economy ever.
Everything is
Everyone's
great.
happy.
Exactly. And I'm the best president ever, and I should win the Nobel Prize. And I've
Did you see that Olympic male team win the hockey game?
26 wars, and blah blah blah. And I'm going to show people, and I'm tough, and so I'm going to attack Greenland, or I'm going to attack Ireland. Yeah, he probably won't say that, although he did with this ridiculous, like he's going to send a hospital ship to Greenland where everybody has free health care.
Yeah, we don't have free health care, but we're going to send a ship to give them free health care when they already have it. That's
it's like,
brilliant.
we're going to say, and we're going to let RFK Jr. be in charge of your health care for a while. That was ridiculous. But, he'll threaten war with Iran. He'll threaten, he'll flex his muscles. I went into Venezuela and I did all these great things. By the way, nobody has even asked since Venezuela, well, what's going on there? We grabbed this guy. His regime is still in place. They say he's the legitimate leader. The only thing that's happened is Trump is siphoning off some oil, which is going into some shady bank account in Qatar that last I heard was not even in the name of the U.S. government, but it was under the control of Donald Trump.
Much like the Board of Peace bank account will be.
Exactly.
Yes.
It is a scam. But he'll lie and he'll say Board of Peace, give me the Nobel Prize, and blah, blah, blah. There are a couple things to watch that may be interesting for those of you who choose to watch. One is he's going to come in. He walks by the Supreme Court, however many members of the Supreme Court show up. Is he going to shake their hand? Is he going to have small talk with them? He probably will with Alito and Thomas and Kavanaugh. But what about the others who went the other way on this thing? It'll be a little vignette, a nice little vignette. The other thing that I'm kind of interested in is I haven't seen Donald Trump stay awake for more than 20 minutes in any public event recently.
I didn't even think of that.
How's he going to do this? And how many times is he going to go off script? It'll also be a little interesting to see whether the Republicans are so gung-ho in support of this guy, since all the members of Congress and a third of the members of the Senate are up for re-election later this year. And every single opinion poll says they're going to lose by a lot, or they're going to lose by a lot, and then they're going to be run out of the country. It's bad. So,
well, that goes back to our accountability. Let it happen.
I can't wait. We live in a weird moment where a large percentage of your loyal following wakes up, opens their phone, and said, did he die overnight? Are we done with this? I mean, it's such a weird moment in our country's history that a huge number of people are like, this has got to end. When can this possibly end? There will be a party. There will be, when he leaves, by whatever means, and there are pictures of people tearing the name Trump off the Kennedy Center, tearing the name Trump off of the various monuments to himself, getting rid of the gold leaf objet d'art from the Oval Office, getting rid of every trace of him, scrubbing the place down. There will be parties. I'm telling you, there will be dancing in the street in the United States. But our job of work is to get there. It's not going to happen automatically. And they're going to fight like hell, stop the SAVE Act. They're going to fight like hell to rig the election. And if they succeed, we won't get another chance. If they are able to get away with it and we don't have an election, free and fair election, where they can steal enough votes, then you're going to be calling up your new friend in Finland and saying, do you have room upstairs?
Yeah. Well, listen, at the end of the day, we're going to need new, bold leaders that inspire the new young voters who are ready to try new things and be controversial and, not do it the way it was always done, because we're never going back to how it was. We are never going back to the way we thought it was, because this is what got us here in the first place. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, David. I always love talking with you. Clearly, we are living through an incredible historical moment, but these people will only win if we give up, because I think all the time about Minnesota and how they thought that would go and how it has so not gone in their direction. And they show us every day what it looks like to see the writing on the wall and then refuse to read it. And I think we need that energy everywhere. So please, before you go, tell people how they can follow your work moving forward and keep up with what you're doing, because I keep up with what you're doing and it helps me so much.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Secondly, here on Minnesota, the resistance in Minnesota is the path forward. Saying no to Trump is the path forward. It was the path that the Europeans chose with regard to trade and with Greenland. It's the path they chose in Minneapolis. It's the path that they chose at Davos. That's the path forward. You can follow me in a variety of different places. I have a company that does a lot of podcast streaming called the DSR Network. You can go on YouTube and subscribe to the DSR Network. Please do that at the very least. If you want to listen and you like what we're doing, you can go to the dsrnetwork.com and support the podcast by becoming a member. That's a great thing. And I do lots of the podcasts myself, but I'm also columnist for the Daily Beast. And I do a podcast with them every week or so. So you can find me at the Daily Beast, or you can find me on Blue Sky, where you find all the other annoying liberals. It's so annoying on Blue Sky. Oh my God. But what social media platform isn't annoying? I mean, I'm looking. I'm still in the market for that. Anyway,
I love Threads. I love Threads, but I think it's there for like Gen X women. I swear to God, the entire thing is just like my people.
Yeah, well, it is. By the way, condolences on the fact that Gen X never got its shot.
Yeah, we really didn't. It just passed over.
Totally passed over. It was the boomers, and now it's the millennials and Gen Z, and you're there like, what about
We're still here like,
right.
Hey.
Anyway, it's really great to talk to you always.
It's so great to talk to you too. Thanks so much, and keep up all your great work.
Same to you.
So that was David Rothkopf reminding us that we knew this was coming, that as soon as we allowed a man who instigated a coup back into the office, dark days were ahead. And we need to do everything we can to not only prioritize getting these people out of power, to be winning every single election, but to hold these people accountable so we are never in this position again. The rules need to change. The institutions need to change. The power structure needs to change. And that starts today with us, and it finishes with a whole new group of voters who have no loyalty to how it was, but know it can be better. I want to thank David for joining us, and you for caring enough about democracy to be here. Now, take this administration seriously, but don't forget to laugh at their ridiculousness. They absolutely hate it, and we need nice things. Until next week, PG out. Before you go, I don't know if you've noticed, but left-wing and progressive creators like myself who share the truth and facts are being drowned out by right-wing propaganda and lies. The mainstream media is barely hanging on and is becoming harder and harder to find anything that isn't billionaire-backed at this point. So if you respect what I am trying to do here, if you learn something from my podcasts or rants, if you would like to get this podcast ad-free delivered directly to your inbox along with my kitchen rants and TV appearances, please consider becoming a member of PoliticsGirl Premium by going to politicsgirl.com and signing up. If you are already a premium member of this podcast, thank you for your support and your efforts to help me do what I'm doing. And if you're not a member, please consider becoming a patron of my work. If you want real knowledge in a world of lies, it is essential to support those of us out here still trying to bring it to you. There is a link to sign up in the bio of this episode, but also at politicsgirl.com. And as always, please like and share this podcast so we can grow our audience, because the more people who have access to this kind of information, the better. As always, thank you for your time and support. The Politics Girl podcast is written and performed by me, Lee McGowan, and produced and edited by Happy Warrior Entertainment. All rights reserved.